Oh no, it's over. Jennifer Lawrence is questions speaking out on Donald Trump. Uh-oh. Let's see this here. Holy shit, Jennifer Lawrence has spoken out about whether she intends to be vocal on her opinion regarding President Donald Trump during Saturday night's episode. Her thoughts on speaking out. I don't really know if I should, Lawrence said on the podcast. My advice, don't. No one needs to hear your fucking opinion. Lawrence said on the podcast, the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? I feel like I was running around with a chicken with my head cut off. Maybe you are. Just show your tits. Just shut up, show your tits, take your $50 million, and fuck off. Like, these people always complain, man. And I'm getting paid so much money, ooh, and then they flash their tits and then wonder why they're objectified. I don't get it. What the fuck? Let's keep going here. During last year's presidential election, the No Hard Feelings actor endorsed Kamala Harris, telling People's Magazine at the time that her decision was largely based on abortion being on the ballot. I like how that's the point that they're voting on. Abortion. Like, the United States is falling apart, and their thing is like, abortion's on the ballot. Really? That's what you're gonna vote for? I mean, all right, I guess to each his own. This kind of points to a topic that some people shouldn't be allowed to vote. Some people should not be allowed to vote, man. What the fuck? That's what you're voting on? Was it San Diego, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia, Boston? I don't know about Boston, actually. I'm going to take that off the list. Detroit's coming back a little bit. Where else? What other fucking places? Atlanta, Charlotte, St. Louis. All these places are falling apart with drug addicts everywhere. Drugs are everywhere. Homeless people are everywhere. Crime is fucking rampant everywhere. And these people are like, you know what is really on the ballot? Abortion. Like, what the fuck? Like, some people should not be allowed to vote. Anyways, let's keep going. On the podcast, she questioned what impact celebrities can have on the political atmosphere. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on people who vote or on who people vote for. I'm shocked. I can't believe that. I'm very surprised that people don't listen to celebrities. Retards who pretend to be other people for money. Lawrence said, so then what am I doing? Acting. I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to add fuel to the fire that's ripping the country apart. We are so divided. Well, I'm glad you fucking had that epiphany. Let's keep reading. Due to her job as an actor and an artist, Lawrence explained that she does not want people to turn away from any of her projects simply because of her political beliefs. Ah! I knew it! It's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Okay, let's keep going here. Of course, it's always about the money. These people are fucking money, greedy, hungry cunts. I'm telling you. Every time, you always question people's motives, and you'll come back to money. I'm not getting paid for this, so don't question my money. By the way, if anybody wants to sponsor me and come up with some Democrat shit, I'm willing to say it, but you gotta pay me. This pussy ain't cheap. Despite her hesitancy to speak about her opinions on politics, she does try to express her beliefs through what movies and projects her production team company chooses to take on, such as abortion documentary Zerwalski v. Texas. Again, these Hollywood people are all about the money. These people are following the money. She tries to express her beliefs through what movies and projects she takes on. Remember when the right was saying that Hollywood is pushing political propaganda? Maybe it's like low-key, right? It's kind of weird. But also, you try to express your beliefs through what movies and productions your production company takes on. Like, that's kind of weird. Again, these people are all about fucking money, man. Every time these people try to virtue signal that they're good people, just know that they're shitbags behind the scenes. And by the way, they're only taking this on because of the money. They're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. I'm telling you. A lot of movies coming out from my production company are expressions on the political landscape, and that's how I feel like I can be helpful, she said. When asked if she regretted how she spoke during Trump's first term, Lawrence said, "Probably. I regret everything I've ever done or said." What the fuck? Okay. I'm going to take the zip drives out of all these cameras when I leave. The second term feels different because he said what he's going to do. And what we knew we knew what he did for 4 years. He was very clear, and that's what we chose. Lauren's appearance on the podcast was part of her press tour for the upcoming film Die My Love, which is scheduled to release in theaters on November 7th. Oh, I'll book my calendar. The sociological thriller follows her starring alongside Robert Pattinson, a bunch of fucking retards, in a movie about her mother plunged into psychosis in the months following the birth of her son. It marks the 5th feature directed by the celebrated Scottish filmmaker Lion Ramsay. Sorry, I have trouble reading. Let me zoom in so I can fucking read this right. Whose previous credits include the disconcerting psychodrama Morven Collar. Okay. This is just a bunch of stupid shit. The Independent has always had a global perspective built on firm foundation of superb international reporting and analysis. Oh, I'm sure. The Independent now enjoys a reach that was inconceivable when it was first launched as an upstart player in the British news industry. They're fighting. They're in there. They're getting gritty. For the first time since the end of the Second World War, across the world, pluralism, reason, a progressive humanitarian agenda, and internationalism, independent values are under threat. Yet we, the Independent, continue to grow. They're not under threat. Who is threatening these? Who is threatening this shit? The progressive and humanitarian agenda, wink wink, and internationalism, globalism, wink wink, independent values, wink wink. Aren't these the people talking about we need to silence our political opponents? I don't get it. Anyways, fuck. That was a retarded article. I'm pissed off now. Anyways, hello everyone. Welcome back to the show. I just wanted to start off by asking Americans, are you tired of winning? Have you had enough winning yet? You've had so many wins. You're making the president to stop winning. You know what I mean? You guys have had a massive success with spending $1 trillion on your defense budget. You guys have had, massive successes in starting trade wars with all of your close allies like Canada and Mexico and the European Union and the United Kingdom and all these places, all the countries within the EU. You guys are threatening to just start trade wars with everybody. China, it's weird. Strategically, a terrible plan, but I'm not surprised. But getting back to this thing with the U.S. and Venezuela, you guys have all seen these warships going to, I think it was Trinidad and Tobago. You guys have seen the military strikes with the Hellfire missiles on the boats, probably fisher boats, but I would be willing to bet drug boats. You kind of can see the kilos on the videos that they're releasing. But at the end of the day, you kind of got to show proof. I don't really know why they decided to start striking the boats instead of stopping them and pulling them over. And I feel like that would be better politically to show that these people are actually running drugs. But at the end of the day, it looks like the United States is going to kick off a war with Venezuela. You've had reporting over the last couple weeks. Breaking Points has done a fantastic job over at antiwar.com. They've done a lot of great reporting. Drop Site News with Ryan Grimm. They've done a lot of great reporting. And Tucker Carlson actually just did a video, I think it was 2 days ago or something, about this whole war in Venezuela. And he really laid out a lot of great points, pretty much every point that you need to make on this. That is, it is not in the interest of the United States to go to war with Venezuela. It's not in any American's interest, I should say. Anybody listening to this in the United States, whatever Venezuela does has zero effect on your life. The only thing it does is make a lot of the oligarch class a lot richer. Right? So the whole point of this war, according to the State Department, the Department of War, and the Trump White House, let me take a puff of this cigar here, is, Venezuela is a big hub for running drugs. And, man, the U.S. war machine always has a fantastic way of justifying these interventions. It's always for the greater good. It's always for the safety and democracy of people. And, they always tie it back to the safety of Americans. If we don't fight them over there, they're going to fight us here, which is a bunch of bullshit that a lot of people are going to fall for, right? Because the U.S. war machine has a lot of very smart people that know how to change the language of it to make it more appealing to you people that are in favor of it. But as we've seen, right, it always leads to more disaster. So they're saying that, Nicolas Maduro and the Venezuelan government are complicit in running drugs in the United States. It's not entirely false, but clearly they're full of shit. So Venezuela, there's drugs absolutely that come from Venezuela and go into the Caribbean, but it's a very, very small amount. It's like 5% or something last time I checked. And let me take another puff of this cigar. And, man, most of the methamphetamine comes from Mexico, right, over the border. Most of the fentanyl comes from China, goes into Mexico, and because of the free trade agreement, NAFTA and all this stuff, and the certain free trade agreements, because of that, they can come through the border and shit and not have to pay taxes going from Mexico to the U.S. and then U.S. to Canada, so they can freely ship, and then Mexico has a very small import tax. Anyways, most of the cocaine comes from Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia. Most of all of the drugs are not coming from Venezuela. So I think we can discount the threat that Venezuela poses to the United States. It's very small, but I think we all know the real reason. It's the oil. That's what it's always been. And there's always people, because just saying, yeah, we're going to go in there for oil, that's a pretty piss poor excuse to go to war. So they got to put these filler words in, like this guy's an illegitimate leader, he's trafficking drugs, he's hurting Americans. They always got to justify it some other way. But at the end of the day, it's the same old of the United States neocon war machine, the U.S. industrial complex. It's looking for another war because it's, over the last decade, it's gone through a turbulent time. It's gone through withdrawals. You know what I mean? It's gone through withdrawals. It is a druggie. It's a junkie who can't get their fix. So just keep that in mind, that these people, every time they talk about war, just question why we're going to war and if it's a real justification. Because at the end of the day, it's a bunch of people who want to go to war and do regime change. And by the way, can I just ask, when has this regime change ever worked? First of all, over the last, let's say, 50, 60 years. And if we're going to say that the U.S. is doing this because it's a dictatorship, right now the United States is propping up dictatorships all around the world. You know what I mean? And if it was really about dictatorships, wouldn't, targeting the UK because of their censorship regime make more sense, as a close and strategic ally of the United States? I think the statistic that came out was last year, 12,000 people were jailed for comments they made online, like anti-immigrant and all this shit, like hateful, quote unquote, shit and comments that they made online. Let me take a puff of the cigar. You know, which a lot of you that are listening might not know, China jailed, I think it was 6,000 people, and Russia jailed, it was like 3,900 people. So the UK has done either 2 to 3 times, more people in jail than fucking what we've been told are dictatorships. Right? So wouldn't that make more sense to target that than go to some third world dictatorship and target them, even though we're propping up Zelensky, who hasn't held elections because of a war? Oh, it's a war. We can't do elections, even though we do them all the time during war. Anyways, again, this is being led by another group of neocons, and you can't just say that Trump's surrounding himself with these bad people and they're leading him down bad roads, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with Trump and he has to be able to fire these people, and he's not, because I think he's in on it, to be honest. I think he's part of it. I don't think he's so dopey. And by the way, you saying that he's just this dopey guy who's being surrounded by bad people, does it not clock with you? Anyways, this whole idea that, this drugs coming from Venezuela is a ridiculous pretext for war. There's no casus bellum there. So, by the way, if you guys don't know, casus bellum is the Latin word in international law for justifying the reason for war. It's a just cause for war. And when we talk about these drugs that are killing Americans, why don't we look at home? I guess not me, because I'm not a part of it, but I can get into Canada in a little bit later. It's the same problems, like in Portland, in LA, and all these places, Baltimore, Seattle, I think Philadelphia, Detroit, all these places, St. Louis, Atlanta, they're seeing like massive homeless problems, massive drug problems. And it's weird that they're targeting, drugs that are way, way off there, these alleged drugs that are way, way off there, when they're not doing anything to stop the cartels that are, running 3 counties in North California. It used to be Americans growing weed, and now it's the cartels running it. There's, I think Tomasito, is that how you say it? Tomasito or Macedo County in California, that's one of them. Like, why doesn't the U.S. use its awesome apparatus to target those people? Secure the borders, stop it from coming in, and then go after the people in this country. And when I mean in this country, I'm in Canada, but it's the same thing here. Like, cartels here, it's just uncovered that, they have a lot of influence, and they're operating almost unimpeded here in Canada. But it's the same thing in the United States. But alas, it's not really about the drugs. It's not really about saving Americans from drugs, because, again, you would see the U.S. government and Homeland Security and the health department, all these things. You would see them trying to, fix the drug problem at home. But, again, it's a pretext for war with Venezuela. I also wanted to point out that your State Department, the Secretary, what is it called? The Secretary of State, something like that, Marco Rubio. I just want to point out him for a minute. This dude is a real sleazebag, and I really don't care if I ever meet him or not. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm just a fucking random guy, but if I ever blow up and become a big name, I'm not really interested in talking to him. If you guys look and do a little digging, Breaking Points did a fantastic breakdown about a month ago of his kind of connections. During his 2016 presidential campaign, he had a lot of backers, U.S. neocon backers. He's a real neocon, straight up neocon. And if you guys look at it, for the last 10, 15, 20 years, literally since his time in the public eye, this dude has frothed at the mouth over the idea of regime change in Venezuela. So it's nothing new that this guy's pushing Donald Trump towards it and using these crazy pretexts for it. So I also wanted to just kind of shift a little off tangent to this Dave Smith, Steven Crowder debate on the U.S. war machine, because I feel like it has a little bit to do with this regime change. They were going back and forth about, Iran and whether the U.S. should have gone into Iran and struck Iran, and Steven Crowder was there dick riding for Trump, of course. He had his dick right up there, right down to the shaft. And let me hit the cigar here. the whole point of Steven Crowder was like, Trump gave him 60 days and you don't want Iran to have nukes and all this shit, dude. And can I just comment? I wish I was there because I would have stepped in and helped out Dave, the boy, the homie. You know, what is exactly the point of this? How does Iran threaten the United States in any way? Because in reality, the only threat is to Israel because Israel keeps threatening to fucking wipe Iran off the map. So of course, Iran is starting to militarize. I just wanted to say that during the 2016, that kind of lead up to the presidential election, the whole point of the MAGA movement was we are not the world's police. It is not our job to go around the world policing people and telling them what to do, when to do, how to do. I remember that because I'm a Canadian, but we have to watch US because it's the elephant sleeping next to us. So every time it moves, we feel the rumble. You know, that was an old saying that Pierre Trudeau said. And it couldn't be truer, man. I remember that we aren't the world's police and it's not our job to go around the world dictating policy, and it's cost us a lot of money in interventions. It's cost us I think 50,000 soldiers or something like that have died. You know, it's cost way too much for the United States to go around do this shit. But yet, these people keep coming up with justifications for it. And that was the whole thing. And then when Steven said, Trump gave him 60 days and you know, I'm like, first of all, they had a date that was like Friday was the 60-day point, but they were going to meet on Sunday, but it was 2 days after. So, like, yeah, you're right on the technicality. He gave them 60 days before they went. But again, they had a date marked out 2 days later, and they used the negotiations as a cover to cover the strikes, right? And second, this 60-day thing, like, Trump gave him 60 days and they didn't listen. Like, Donald Trump and the United States is not the daddy of the world. It's not the daddy of Iran. They're a free and sovereign country, and they don't have to listen to the United States. And that doesn't mean that the United States, because Iran isn't listening, now has a justification to do whatever it wants. You know, and vice versa. What happens if, like, the United States falls a little bit and China gets the supremacy and now they start dictating to the United States what they can and can't do? You guys wouldn't like that very much, would you? I would just also say that it's funny that the United States preaches how much they love freedom and how, our government doesn't tell us shit and we hold our government to account. All these things, but then they go around the world being dictators to everybody. You know, so it's definitely not going to add you any favor around the world. And now that you hid these strikes behind the negotiations, and that, you know, people know that you're going to do these kind of things and you're going to behave in this kind of way, people are not going to want to negotiate with you. People are going to know what your real intentions are, right? People are going to know what your real intentions are. And they're not going to listen. They're not going to bother negotiating. And they're just going to ignore you and just pretty much already know what's going to come. And they're just going to start preparing for it. So again, I think the United States is strategically doing a bad long game here, because you're going to lose favor with all these countries. Anyway, I'm going to shift gears over to my home country of Canada and talk a little bit about that and the things I'm seeing. So, Canada, over the last 10 years, has really fallen apart. It's most definitely fallen behind. I mean, you can look at any statistic, any measurable piece of data. Canada is falling behind. We went from, like, the 9th strongest economy, 7th strongest economy. We're now at 20th. You know, the standard of living is falling. Just the other day, the Bank of Canada governor said that we should expect Canadians, the new generation of Canadians, to have a lower standard of living than previous generations, which is something you've never seen. You know, we've seen the typical age of somebody drop from 82 to 79, the life expectancy, you know, all these things. And, you know, we cannot get anything built in this country. There's been a lot of talk about pipelines and doing all these national projects and infrastructure projects from Mark Carney. Again, we haven't seen any of it. I'm going to bet that we won't. You know, Alberta has been really trying to push to get to market. It's oil, which is essential. It's essential for a growing economy. It's essential for this growing world. I mean, petroleum is the backbone of our first modern world, our first world modern shit. Everything we have is made of petroleum. So it's an essential. It's a necessity. And it also is helpful for reducing climate emissions if you're really worried about that, right? Clean energy from Canada is better than burning cow dung for heat, right? Anyways, and we've seen a lot of the government shut down any of those projects because there's, quote, no business. There's no business model and no business sense and there's no business anything. Yeah, it's so annoying. And we've seen that Alberta has tried to build pipelines and have been blocked from going the Trans Mountain, or I think it was the Trans Mountain from Alberta to BC to the port in Kitimat, which is a gigantic proposed, or is it built? I need to double check on that, but it's a gigantic port that would take petroleum products and natural gas from the coast of BC over to the Asian market. We've seen pipelines blocked from east to west, the Canada East-West pipeline, which would give Canada its sovereignty over oil production. It's a pipeline that would run from Alberta over Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, all the way to the east where the refineries are, and all in between. And we've seen Quebec block it and all these things. Right, and now we got the Premier of Manitoba saying that we might build a port at Churchill so that we can get it to Tidewater to go to Europe. Again, Germany and Poland were really asking for Canada's oil and natural gas because with this whole thing with Russia, that they've stopped buying their oil, and now energy prices in Europe have skyrocketed because of it. But again, we cannot get anything built here domestically. The CMHC, which is a housing organization that kind of monitors all the housing data, said in their survey and their study that we need 3.9 million homes by 2030, and we need close to 10 million homes by 2035. We are not on track to even get anywhere close to that. Even the Housing Accelerator Fund that the federal government recently came out with, I think it was a year or two ago, is only on track to build 700,000 in 10 years, which is well below. It's like not even 10%. It's like 8% of what we need. So again, and it's a useless program. If you really look into it, it's a very vague program that promises a lot of money with no exact tangible strategy of how to get it done. Just any kind of national project. The Trudeau government spent, it was almost, $1.2 trillion in debt. And what do we have to show for it? We don't have any new airports. We don't have any new pipelines. We don't have any major, Trans-Canada Highway. We just have this main Trans-Canada Highway that's still just a twinned highway. We have no gigantic bridges like the Confederation Bridge. We have no anything. We have no infrastructure to show for it. We just blew a bunch of money and give it away. And what has resulted from it, and it's also other policies, because Canada's falling apart, because it has weak leadership. A lot of you guys don't know that when Canada was originally designed and built, it was designed to be a strong centralized federal government in Ottawa, a very top-down structure. And I learned this all through my university classes and a lot of readings, right? And we've seen weak leadership from the federal government. And the result is, in drug policy, for example, we've seen drugs and run rampant. It's running rampant. We've seen crime running rampant across this country. And the result has been social disintegration. It has been a disintegration of trust from the people into the bureaucrats' operational capacity to do anything. I think it's a poll came out from Angus Reid that shows like only 56% of Canadians even trust the government to do anything, which is terrible. That is a terrible statistic to come out, and it's because of weak leadership, and it is leading to a social disintegration. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a quite transformative era, and I think that for the next 5 years, it's going to be another transformative era. I think it's going to continue. I think it's going to get worse. And what we've seen over the last 10 years and is culminating in today is a constitutional crisis, right? Where Alberta and Saskatchewan, there's groups in here that are looking to separate and become our own country. You've never seen that. In Alberta and Saskatchewan, two of the most conservative and patriotic provinces. They're deeply patriotic. They want to leave. We've seen a resurgence of Quebec nationalism, and they want to leave. We've seen a resurgence of Newfoundland. If you guys don't know, they have a pretty powerful economy. They have a lot of resources that they can do a lot of their own independent country stuff with. So I think you're seeing a disintegration of our fabric of a country, and it's because of the policies from the federal government. I think it's designed, to be honest, when you look at it from a 30,000-foot view and you look at the totality of everything, it's most definitely designed. We've seen a massive shift to the right in this country. Most young people right now are very right-wing, and I think a statistic came out just off the top of my head. I'd have to double check where this is, but the conservative kids today are more conservative, and I think it was more racist than our grandparents were, which is a fucking incredible feat. I also wanted to cover another problem that's leading to the disintegration of Canadian society, which is this drug problem that we're seeing. And it is running rampant in every Canadian city. There's not really a city that you can point to that is not experiencing this. And it is a massive toll on these people. And the left is coming up with this new lingo, this new dialect that they come up with to reinforce their weird scientific academic works. It's totally insane. So this whole idea of compassionate care and harm reduction, it just drives you up the wall when you see it. It's this crazy lingo that it's compassionate to let these people just live on the street and continue doing drugs. And the harm reduction is offering drugs in safe consumption sites. And it's a mutually combined, it is like a compounding of negative effect on society. And these people, their idea of compassion and harm reduction is building emergency shelters, as quote unquote, as they call it. And is, building these emergency shelters so these people can sleep on cots and then poke holes in the wall with their, knives that they keep to hang their bags on. A lot of people in my family are addicted to drugs, and I've seen exactly how it goes down. And their whole idea is that we need to offer them that service of just offering them a place to stay, which no problem. They're experiencing something bad. But then they have this weird kind of backwards way of thinking that they're saying, okay, how we're going to get these people off of drugs, or how we're going to treat these people, is we're going to give them more drugs, but not combine it with any kind of rehabilitation program. The only programs they offer for rehabilitation is they bring in these social workers, as they call them, case management workers, right? And some therapists once a week that are going to come in and just check up on these guys. Just check up on them. And they're going to offer these safe consumption sites that, just hand out free drugs. And that's it. And these people are apparently, in their eyes, they're supposed to get their fix and then just go back to trying to fix their life. And that's not what happens, quite obviously. Anybody with a brain cell would know that that's not what's going to happen. These people are going to get their fix, and then once they sober up, they're going to go out and get another fix on the street. And what we've seen is this weird argument that it is compassionate to do that because there's scientific evidence to support, and it's always this it's this weird cycle where it reinforces itself, right? And no one has pointed out that this really scientific strategy is not working. There's more homeless people, there's more drug addicts than ever with doing down this harm reduction path. There's more drug addicts than ever walking around. And it is hurting people's homes because they have no money, they have no job, so they have to steal, and then they either sell it to the pawn shop or they sell the stolen items to their drug dealer for the hit that they're looking for. And anyways, it's this weird lingo about compassion, and I just want to I want to fight this, because this is not an issue that we on the right can give up and just name, or give up the moral high ground on. We have the moral high ground on this. That it is not compassionate to watch your fellow Canadian sit in a homeless shelter, or because there's not enough rooms, they sit on the street and in tents, rotting away. I'm sure all of you have seen videos in Portland and Seattle and Vancouver and Toronto and here in Saskatoon and all around, man. There's every city. These people have limbs rotting off because they're getting infected from using these shared needles and things like that. And these people are walking around giving needles, right? And I see some videos of these NGOs that are helping facilitate this needle exchange, going near schools and all this stuff, and the parents are just asking them to move away from the school, and these NGOs are refusing. As a parent, are you fucking retarded that's the argument you're going to go on? Oh, just move it away from the school. How about get it away from our country? Why are we accepting this? Why are we tolerating this kind of thing to just allow this drug use? How about we get it away from the schools, we get it away from the provinces, and we get it away from this country? A normal country would not accept this type of backwards, insane thinking to allow drug use. It is not the compassionate thing to do to watch your fellow Canadians sit and rot on the side of the street, starving away and rotting away, because they have lost control of their life. They have lost the ability to have a control on the drug problem. And it is absolutely insane. It's utterly bewildering that we even allow this. And these NGOs are the ones that are facilitating this. And I think a big problem are these NGOs, and they need to be shut down. We need to completely switch up this thing. And I think we're seeing this, even especially here in Saskatchewan. Premier Moe is introducing this new bill that's going to allow people to be taken against their will and put in a drug rehabilitation program, which I think is the real compassionate thing to do, is to go, hey, we are your fellow Canadians, and we are watching you kill yourself. We are watching you rot away on the street. We are watching you, because you have no money and no job and you've lost control. You are stealing things, right? Shoplifting or breaking in to places. I personally had my garage broken into and my tools and a bike was stolen from me. So like $1,500 worth of shit was stolen. You know, if you want to keep that on the conservative side. My car was broken into and my longboard was taken. You know, it's insane. So we as a society need to not, as a right-wing society, right, in the right-wing kind of culture, we need to say, no. This is not the compassionate thing to do, to let you rot away. What the compassionate thing to do is to say, hey, we, your fellow Canadians, are not going to sit around and allow this to continue. We are going to shut down these NGOs that are handing out these needle exchanges. Personally, in my preference, I'd like to see them investigated and serve jail time for this. And we need to shut down these scientists that are, doing all this academic work to manipulate these studies to show that this stuff works. And when they are proven wrong time and time again, they double down, which to me is the criminal intent, right? They are doubling down and not wanting to admit that they are wrong in doing this. They always double down and say, well, we actually need more. It's not good enough. We need more. Like, no. We've had just this much, and this much chaos has gone on. It's insane. I think the more compassionate thing to do for these people experiencing these addictions is to go, no. We are going to take you against your will, because we're not going to watch you do this. We're going to put you in a rehab facility until you are better, right? Because, again, if any of you have seen people who are post substance abuse, like they've used to do heroin, they used to do methamphetamines, they used to do all these kind of fentanyl and all this stuff, right? You see them and they don't look the same as they did before. Even though you don't do the drug anymore and your body's kind of healed, you have forever damaged your body. And like, these drugs are eating your brain. They physically destroy your brain. And it's just insane to me that not enough conservatives who are older and supposed to be the ones in charge of society right now are allowing this to happen. It's utterly insane. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it off today.